Righty ho, in Alaska, we will call the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting to order. Today's date is Wednesday, November 2nd. The time is 6:15 p.m. Notice has been duly posted at City Hall. We'll commence with the roll call. Myself, Dan Stevenson, present. Alder Tom Smith.
Present.
Alder Stephen Knott.
Present.
Also with us, we have Finance Director Sabrina Steger, City Attorney / Administrator Amanda Jackson, and HR Director, our manager, Amy Franston. Also joining us in the audience are Alders Wolf, Stokes, and Jurassic, hiding behind Amy or Amanda. So with that, we will go on to consideration and action on minutes from the previous meeting. What is the will of the committee?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
I will second that.
We have a motion from Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Item 3, public input. Public input will be limited to 3 minutes. Anybody wishing to address the Finance and Personnel Committee, please step forward. Is there anyone online? Second call for public input. Third and final call for public input. Hearing no public input, I'm declaring public input closed. Consideration and possible action on the following items. Under Finance, item 4, the 2022 General Fund financials. And for this, Sabrina.
All right, thank you. So in your packets tonight, item 4 is the general fund financial statements. First listed is our balance sheet for the general fund on page 1. I'll draw your attention to page 6, which will tell us our budgeted revenues, our variance percent remaining. So as of the end of October, we have 3.6% remaining of our budgeted revenues of what we expected for 2022. So we will by far exceed that number at the end of 2022. I'll also draw your attention to page 18, which will give us our total budgeted expenditures for 2022. As of the end of October, so October 31st, this isn't including payments that will come next week at council. We do have 22.03% remaining for these last couple of months of the year. So I think we are going to come in pretty close to being exactly at our budgeted expenditures, if not maybe a little under with the revenues going over. I think we'll have a little bit of a surplus for 2022, unless something wild happens. Oh, knock on wood.
Good problems to have. And then what happens with the surplus? Does that go into ER?
So typically what we've done in the past, it's been the discretion of the finance director to decide on a number of how much to put into the general fund balance or move to the equipment replacement fund. And that comes as I believe it's either a resolution or it comes to council usually in February, and you guys approve that entry.
Excellent. Okay. Is there any other further details regarding the general fund financials?
Nope, not at this time.
Does anybody have any questions for our finance director?
I make a motion, we accept the general fund financials and place them on file.
Second.
We have a motion from Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott, to accept and place on file the 2022 general fund financials. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 General fund financials are approved. On to item 5, the 2022 Omni Center financials. Again to Sabrina.
Thank you. So next in your packet, item 5, which starts on page 19, is the balance sheet for the Omni Center. If I can draw your attention to page 22, which brings us to our budget report for the Omni Center. You can see that we have 8.33% remaining for what we had budgeted for revenues for the Omni Center. I can tell you earlier today, I was able to figure out what our tourism transfer will be for the Omni, and it'll be $45,000. So as you can see, we only have 52 remaining for our variance, so we'll be even closer to meeting our total budgeted revenues after I do that transfer. So for revenues, sitting very well. Our total expenditures, I'll draw your attention to page 24. We do have 12.9% remaining for budgeted expenditures. I believe Dan is here. I think the main thing that sticks out to me in looking at our budgeted expenditures of areas where we've gone over is our concession supplies. And I believe that's just because there's been more events throughout the year. So then we have more expenses, and then we've also had more revenue. So that's really the only thing that stands out to me looking at the Omni Center revenues and expenses.
As long as we have margin, then you want there to be more expenses in that regard, because,
In terms of profit.
right, so.
Correct.
So can I ask one question?
Alder not.
So Dan, under the revenues, I'm assuming we still have several major events coming up that will produce quite a bit, or no?
You know, we're getting into our ice season, so you're going to see a large amount, October, November, December with the use of ice. So that's those two, November and December tend to be our busiest with ice rental and things of that nature coming up. So that's where we're at. The other thing, just to draw your attention to, we have not transferred any of our liquor sales over. We usually do that once a year. This year we have an excess of I think like $42,000 in that fund. So we'll transfer another 40,000 there. Will come over just from the alcohol sales from the events we've had.
So it looks to me we're doing very good then. Yep.
So
Great.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
We'll also have another quarter of room tax revenue too. So we'll have we have 2 quarters left. We only have 2 quarters in, so.
Okay. Thank you.
I remember the days when the Omni Center just lost money. And
Yes,
this-
years. It's really turned around great and is holding steady.
all right. Any other questions regarding the Omni Center financials for either Dan Wick or Sabrina? With that, what is the will of the committee?
I'll make a motion that we file the 2022 Omni Center financial report.
Are we also approving?
Well, approve and file. Sure.
second.
Okay, we have a motion from Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to approve and place on file the 2022 Omni Center financials. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the financials, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Financials are approved. On to item 6, the Gunderson Health System parking ramp financials for 2022 third quarter. Again, Sabrina.
Thank you. So lastly, in your packet, page 25 is the quarterly parking ramp operating cost. So we make a payment quarterly to Gunderson Parking Ramp. As you can see, we make that quarterly payment and they use that towards their operating costs. Our quarterly payment is $1,250 to help them towards their operating cost. I don't really have much else to add in regards to the parking ramp financials. We typically just present them and place them on file, but if you have any questions, I do have a contact at Gunderson. I can reach out to them. Everything looked pretty straightforward to me, but if you have questions, I can definitely reach out.
Right committee.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Gunderson parking ramp financials for 2022 third quarter and place them on file.
Second.
A motion from Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott to approve and place on file the 2022 third quarter Gunderson Health System parking ramp financials. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those financials are approved, and that ends the finance section. Moving on to personnel. We'll start with a recruitment update from HR Manager Amy Franston. Hello, Amy.
Hello, good evening. So we did not have any regular filled positions in the month of October. Just in other news, getting ready to start our recruitment for our GIS position. We have been accepting applications and will continue to do so until November 6th. Also, we have started the process for the hiring of our 3 full-time firefighters that we will be bringing more information as we proceed in that process. And then also reviewing the job description for our city administrator vacancy.
Thank you. Any questions for Amy? I actually have one. We noticed through the budgetary process that there was there was a position in the Public Works Department that had not been filled for the whole year. Should that have been included in these updates, or do we have other positions that we're not filling, but we are budgeting for?
That is the only one. So I've been bringing forth information of positions that we are actively recruiting or actively pursuing. Since that has not been something that's been actively pursued, it hasn't been on these reports. I certainly can include that information if that is your will going forward.
I guess it'd be up to the committee. I didn't know that we had that position not filled until it came up. So that might be good information to have going forward. I don't know that it would change anything, but
So are you looking for maybe an update if it's unfilled for over 6 months? I mean, what are you looking at? You wouldn't want to know like it's been 30 days unfilled or something.
yeah, no, it's just, I just feel like that one kind of slipped under the radar, and I don't know if other members of council were aware that that was a thing. But maybe it was just me, so.
I mean, if it's not unreasonable, I guess the question that we'd want to ask for guidance for Amy is what would be the break point, if you will, for reporting that?
I think if there was a decision not to fill a position that was budgeted,
Okay, sure.
then
Oh, so it's not just that it's not been filled, but you're looking for a decision not to fill it.
right. So my understanding is that the current protocol that we use is an update on recruitment, and maybe that's where the confusion came in because we were actively recruiting.
Yeah.
In this case, we were budgeted for a position, but we weren't actively trying to
Got it.
recruit it. So if I were guessing, that's probably why council was not advised of that, because we weren't trying to recruit it.
Got it.
I just don't know that council was aware that we were not trying to recruit a position that we were budgeting for. So it's just kind of good stuff to know, and you don't want to wait for budget time to figure that out. That would be my perspective. So,
Thanks.
all right. Any other questions for Amy? Going to item 8, and there's all sorts of printouts here. So going to policy updates. 8 is 2.03 performance evaluations policy. Amy.
So with the recent update to the performance evaluation program and process that has been before this committee the last couple of months, there's these were ideas that were talked about previously that were talked about and essentially decided to move forward. So these are just those actual changes that you're seeing before you. Performance evaluations policy 2.03, and then the wage and salary administration policy 3.01. Just to reflect that performance evaluations that are satisfactory will, those employees would be eligible for a step increase in the first full pay period in January, as opposed to 2 times a year as it was in the previous policy.
So these are listed as updates. Do we want action on these to go to council?
These are actually changing our policy, right? It's proving, yeah. Okay.
And I think we spent time talking about these. I guess my position is still the same. It's better for people who are here now, but we are going to create holes in the future where people will potentially have more than a year before they get a step increase. But as it was stated, they'll know that going into it, that that's what the reality is. So, all right. So with regards to item A, we want to do these all 3 in one omnibus action, or do you want separate?
I think item A and B correlate together. And if I could add just one other item to actually 2 other points with that as well. So with the performance evaluation process, because that did recently change, it is going to look a little bit different for employees. Just for anybody that may be listening, for employees, Supervisors have been trained on the process, the new forms and the program going forward. They're getting ready, gearing up for that performance evaluations that will take place likely in December. So employees that may have questions or concerns, just want to refer them to their supervisors. Again, they've been provided that training, or also human resources to provide that guidance to employees. We did have one employee that kind of fell in the crux of the two policies, the policy change. This particular employee was brought on under the previous policy, which stated that step increases were going to happen 2 times a year. And now with that policy change, I would request that that one particular employee be allowed an exception to be eligible for step increase in January 2023.
In the case of this one particular employee, how many months would that employee be looking at without a step increase if it's not approved? I mean, is it 13 months or is it 23 months?
Well, under the previous policy would have been eligible in July of 2023. And now, as this policy states now, would not be eligible until January 2024.
So 6 months.
So, okay, so either they get a step increase 6 months earlier than they were expecting or 6 months later. I mean, later doesn't necessarily seem fair. So what are the thoughts?
I think that we need uniformity, and that's why we're moving towards this direction. I know we had discussions on the one-offs in the past, but I think that we need to create a uniform single policy, and then from that point forward, we'll be moving forward as an entire city staff. So, I mean, I'm supportive of approving the policy updates as stated for both 2.03 and 3.01.
Thomas?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I think to be consistent and stay with our direction, I would support the same thing as follow those as stated in the policy.
I think if I had my druthers, I would, if I were to design this, I would probably have, in this one-off case, have it go through till July and then give the step increase that following January, like kind of bring them in, but that seems kind of like an administrative hassle. So, I mean, on one case, we have an employee getting it 6 months early, and the other case, we're making extra work for staff. So maybe it's better to do the latter. All right, well, we've had some discussion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the policy updates as posted for 2.03 performance evaluation policy and 3.01 wage and salary administration policy.
Second.
A motion from Alder Knott, seconded from Alder Smith to approve as presented items 8A and 8B as printed on the agenda. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item passes. And then we'll go to item 8C, 3.03 insurance policy.
So the policy 3.03, our insurance benefits policy, the initiation with this policy update was per the direction that came about previously to include our regular part-time employees in the dental insurance, with the city paying 50% of that premium and the employee paying the other 50% of the premium, which we did proceed. Again, this is just bringing forth those changes. And then in reviewing this policy, there were a number of other things. So it looks like there's a lot of changes, but other than that section under dental insurance, the rest of the policy is really just what we're actually doing for policy and benefit administration. So with the dental insurance section, however, that was agreed upon at the previous meeting that would be effective 2023, since that's when that was budgeted. So just to note that this policy does say an update as of this month, but the exception being that dental insurance for our regular part-time employees would be effective in 2023.
I'll move that we approve Policy updates to section 3.03, the insurance policy as published.
I'll second that.
Motion from Alder Not, seconded by Alder Smith to approve 3.03 on the insurance policy as printed in the agenda. Any discussion? Do we know, Amy, and do we think that this is going to be utilized, or do we have, I suppose we have to pass this first and before we can really offer it?
So we did proceed based on the parameters that you had given us at the previous meetings, being that our open enrollment ended October 21st. So we did include those regular part-time employees and did offer them the dental insurance. Of course, those aren't effective until January 1, 2023. So we did proceed with those applications and that offering to those 3 individuals, knowing that this was just a matter of changing the policy and bringing it before the council.
Okay, and was this received, or was this policy waived?
Oh, yeah.
The policy to add our regular part-time employees was approved by.
Oh, I know the policy was, have employees that would qualify for this, are they taking the policy, or are we just making a policy that
We
that
had,
is using?
yeah, we had one of them fill out the enrollment form and initiate that process.
We budgeted for everybody that would be eligible.
So, yes.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving 3.03, the insurance policy, as stated in the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. That will bring us to item 9, which is closed session. We'll consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, parenthesis 1, parenthesis E of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whether competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Specifically, sale of Overhill Road excess property. If any action is required in open session as a result of the closed session, the council will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and or continue with the printed agenda.
I move to go into closed session.
Second.
We have a motion from Alder Not, seconded by Alder Smith to go into closed session. This is by roll call. Alder Not,
Yes.
Alder Smith,
Yes.
Stevens is an aye. We are in closed session at 6:40.
Okay.
38 to me. 38 to me.
6:38.
Close enough.
I think so.
All right.
It's so bad that everybody but Amy has to leave.
Oh, they're not feeling bad about it.
She's like, I'm fine. It's cool.
Thank you.
This is for closed session.
Over the.
Okay, it is 7:51 PM. 6:56 PM.
6:52.
Okay,
Contagious.
I'll make a motion.
This isn't on the agenda. You'll have to wait.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Got a motion to adjourn from Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Not at 6:52 PM. All those in any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 We stand adjourned.
All right.